Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My brother has requested that I make another video about astrology, so I was like, you know what? I haven't done a video on astrology for a while, so I don't see why not. Um, so my phone's dying, so it's probably going to be shorter than the last one I did. But nonetheless, last time I talked about astrology, I talked about the physical properties on how it works. Now, I'm going to get into the explanation on why it relates to people and how it relates to people. Last time I was talking about the magnetism and the way that the moon works and the way that various things influence various people in different ways, and that different planets and their physical qualities and their exothermic behaviors, meaning releases energy or heat, has an effect on the way that the universe works due to polarity, magnetism, and various other physics. So, what we have here is a special astrologer's protractor. I had to order this off of the internet. It was it it had other connections too, but this is a map of longitude, latitude, and actually a three-dimensional type format. And it's not for astrology, but it is perfect for astrology because it is something that can create guidelines for atmospheric pressure and such. So you can actually test the environment to it, and then it gets pretty deep. But I also want to go through my books because it's always good to review something if you're a master of it, because most masters can remember the most complex stuff and then forget the basics, and that makes for a bad teacher. Because there's usually no bad student. It's usually just a bad teacher. I mean, bad students do exist. Don't take that saying completely seriously, but so I'm gonna get right into it. There are different elements. There are different modes. There are different factors that specify a sign. There are 4 of each sign that is cardinal, and 4 of each sign that is mutable, and 4 of each sign that is fixed. Each of those are terms in astrology, and I'll explain each one. For a mutable sign, which would be Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, all of those signs are very flexible and adaptable, and usually have a very odd temperament because they're fluxing in different directions constantly. Very usually their emotional temperament is sort of unpredictable, but their behavior is somewhat steady. Like, you can rely on them to do certain behaviorisms, or you can rely on them to behave in, they just have certain quirks, and they're all good quirks. They're not usually bad. It inclines one to be flexible, usually more understanding with things, on a social level and also a material level. But it also inclines one to be inconsistent upon such matters. Another big thing I wanted to get into, that I'll get into later, but I'll just bring it up for now. There are many things that are related to astrology that just don't say so. For example, for the tarot cards, this is the Emperor. It represents the Aries. You can even see the symbol right there, and there's a ram sitting right next to him. So it's all in there, man. There's a lot of esoteric things, which means a lot of people know words, a lot of people don't know words. So I'm going to explain some words. What that means is that it's either hidden or it's knowledge that's old and unknown, usually religious or cultural. Or I like philosophy a lot, so I usually turn to that. But for cardinal signs, they project their own personality onto their environment. Cardinal signs include Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and yeah, Capricorn, and there's one more, Libra. Yeah, yeah. Actually, Libra's before Capricorn if you're doing it chronologically. Um, for the last one, fixed. Fixed is someone. Oh, I didn't tell you what that last one was. Let me do that real quick. Cardinal projects their own personality on their environment, but what I didn't mention is that they're a mix between mutable and fixed. Mutable is the most flexible, very inconsistent. Fixed is the most consistent, usually dependable, stubborn, etc. Cardinal is an interesting mix. I almost want to say it's neither of them. But it's its own type of it's kind of a free spirit. It's hard to hold it down, but they're also easy to persuade at the same time. It's kind of weird. Um, you kind of have to connect with them in order to get them to do anything, or in their own mind they have to evolve before they can do something on the inside, before they can do it on the outside. Like I was saying about fixed, it's called fixed, like a fixed camera. It stays. It's an interpretation that represents something of a square almost, whereas I would be a triangle and immutable a circle, because a lot of people forget that there's a lot of math involved in this science, and when you're looking up things like sacred geometry and such, which is a totally other topic for a totally other day. Um, we'll get into Pythagoras and all that, but um, a lot of it is based off the fact that there's a certain projection and the physics in the atmosphere and the various transfers and the way that when the planets line up, their energy kind of bounces off each other, and even the angle of the Earth, it needs to be taken into account. So, when you start to look into it, it gets a lot deeper than what's your sun sign, because you have a sun sign, a moon sign, a Mercury sign, a Venus sign, a Mars sign, a Jupiter sign, a Saturn sign, a Uranus sign, a Neptune sign, and a Pluto sign, in that order. Literally.